Hey guys, how you doing? It's Vince. Decided to do another one. I don't have anything new to show really. My birthday is on the 4th, so I'm hoping at some point around then I'll have some new stuff. But I thought of doing doing a bunch of promos, and I can probably do several of these. So it could give me a few videos, 3-4 videos worth of stuff I can show. And I know some of you guys are into seeing promos, so I figured to do that. Now in the background, primarily because it's one of the longest, probably the longest full-side LP that I have, just in case this takes a while. Todd Rundgren's Utopia, Side 2, The Icon. So that's what you'll be in the background if you can hear it. I don't know how loud it is. Anyway, let's start with this one. First of all, promos for me have come from 3 different sources. Either ones that I bought myself, used, ones that I got when I was working at the record store between 85 and 89, and some that I got from this ex-employee of my dad's from the mid to late 70s, who was best friends with the Columbia sales rep and used to give him tons and tons of free stuff, and used to bring in singles to work and let people take them, and my dad would grab a bunch and bring them home to us. Well, he invited us over to his house one time, and he literally had like 4 shelves that big, and it was all stuff that he was given, all probably white label, promo, Columbia Epic, and all the other offshoots, box sets, all kinds of stuff. And he was nice enough to go through and give my brother and I each about 15-20 albums out of his collection. So I've got some of those. I'm not sure if there's any in this stack, but I do have some back there. I may have 1 or 2. Anyway, let's get started. First one is one I did buy. This is a Climax Blues Band. This is one of their earlier albums. It's not their first. It's either the second or third, but it's self-titled. And there's the back. This one is not a white label. I don't think Sire had white labels. But what they did have on the earlier ones was it stamped promotional. So that is that. That is promotional stamped. Now I do have promos too that I did get from the record store from certain labels where they didn't actually stamp them. They would actually cut the corner or punch it. And I didn't pull those out because there's not really much to show. All of these at least are stamped and or white label, depending on what year they're from. The newer ones obviously aren't white label because they stopped that after a while. In like the late 70s, I think they stopped the white labels. This next one is, this is a band that actually, that was one of the 45s I got from this guy. It's an artist on Playboy Records. And this is the album that single's from. I found this used and bought this, and this is actually a promo. It's called Blue Ash. They're kind of a pop rock band. Not successful. They only had like 2 or 3 albums. But the single on here that I had was called Look at Me Now. And I always thought it was a nice pop ballad. And then I found the album, so I figured, what the heck. So that's the cover. The back is gold stamped. There's the picture. That's got kind of like a news page sleeve, kind of like the thick as a brick cover. And this one is stamped. It's not a white label, but it is stamped demonstration. And there's your Playboy label. So that one I did buy. Next one I also bought, but this one actually is a white label. This is the Alpha Band. Now, the biggest thing you know about this band is T-Bone Burnett, who became a pretty famous producer. It's kind of like a country, slightly progressive rock, hybrid kind of thing. It's pretty good stuff. There's the goofy ass sleeve where they have baseball gloves on. And here's a white label. Now I found this amusing. Somebody stamped Cheapy on it, which is pretty funny. I've got a couple promos like that that actually have discard stamped on them, which is pretty funny. Obviously that didn't happen. So there's that one. Next one, another one I bought. This is Ted Nugent and Amboy Dukes. This is the version of the band before he went solo. This is called The Wild. This is another white label, and this one actually has the promo sticker in the corner. There's your back. And there's your white label. This is actually probably one of my top 3 favorite Nugent albums, period. Song-wise, there's some really strong tunes on here. Too bad he didn't do them later on when he went solo. But yeah, I really like this one. The next is a twofer. Both of these I bought years ago, as you'll be able to tell from the covers, especially the second one. But these are white label promos. This band's called American Tears. This is another band I discovered from getting a single from that guy. And actually the single that I did get was recorded between this album and the next one I'm going to show. They didn't actually release an album that year because the main guy, Mark Mangold, reformed the whole band. And so obviously it took them a while to do that. So they didn't release an album, but they released, actually it was only a promo, probably didn't get released, it was called Born to Love. And it's a little more straight rock than this is. This is a little more on the progressive side, but it's still very song-oriented. Keyboards, bass, drums in this version of the band. Mark Mangold went on to do a lot of writing and producing in the 80s for more big-name acts, and that's how he's more well-known. But he was a very talented writer and keyboard player and singer as well. Here's the back cover. Here's your tear gas bomb. Here's your gold stamp. And pig sleeve, and your white label. Now the other American Tears I have, like I said, it's a different band, with the exception of Mark. This cover unfortunately is bad ringworm, but I haven't been able to find another one besides it's a promo, so I wanted to keep it. Powerhouse. This was the last one under this band's name. A few years later, they would resurface again in this formation under the name Touch and release an album on Atco. There's the gate, and there's Mangold right there. This one is not stamped, and actually it doesn't even look like it had one of the strips on it either. But there's your sleeve, and then there's a picture on the back from Metropolis. I don't know if it has to do with anything. I guess it's a Powerhouse thing. But this one actually is a white label. So that was kind of interesting. I got one that's not stamped that's a white label, because usually it's both. Unless for some reason somebody switched out, because I did buy this used for a different cover. I don't know. So that's those. Next one I'm going to show is another one-off band from the late 70s called Arc. I don't know much about these guys. The only thing I can tell you is, for those of you familiar with Crack the Sky, the main guy, John Palumbo, wrote several tunes and produced this album, and it's on their same label, Lifesong. Here's the goofy-ass back. And this is kind of pop AOR rock, pretty good stuff. There's some good songs. Some of it's kind of interesting, and there's actually 2 songs on here that were recorded first by Crack the Sky that they do their own versions of. Another goofy ass sleeve, and this one is a white label as well. So that one I bought. They're pretty much the ones that all the ones that I got from the record store from the 80s. This is actually from 78. Now this is another one that's not a white label, but is marked. It's another Sire. This one I bought. This one I really like. Is Barclay James Harvest. This is their second album once again. It's a really nice cover. Butterfly opened up, and kind of a spacey inside. Now with the Sire ones, the covers are not marked, but as with the Climax Blues Band, it does say demonstration on it. So this was a very cool find from several years ago. The next one is one of those albums that I got from that guy that worked with my dad. And I've had this since '77, I'm thinking. So I need a new one, but I keep this because it is a promo and it's a white label. And even if I do get a new one, I'll still keep this one. It's Jeff Beck Jan Hammer Group. And there's your gold stamp right there, so it is an official. I went through a stage of taking the white strips off the bottom, if I could, off. If I could get them off pretty clean, I would do it, because I had this thing about the cover being able to see everything. So the only ones I didn't do were ones where the bottom part of the cover really didn't have anything. So in this case, I did do this one. As you can see, it did come up a little bit, but it came off fairly clean. I did this forever ago because you can see it's already got ring wear. So anyway, this one doesn't have a picture sleeve, but as you can see, there's your white label. Next one is another buy. This is another late 70s rock band. That it was a one-off. This one actually does have the strip. This one's called Bighorn. And there's your timing strip down there. This one I didn't take off. There's your back and there's your stamp. And this is from 78 as well. And it's funny in the 70s how, you know, the guys kind of look goofy. But they had the long hair, so it's like kind of trying to look cool, but not really looking cool kind of thing. Yeah. But anyway, so there's the goofy band. And this guy, he must have been in the army or something. He's got no hair. And here's your white label. So it was a cool find. Another white label. For those of you that are familiar with the band Charlie, it was around from about the mid-70s through the early 80s. Didn't have any big hits, but they were more well known for having hot chicks on their covers. This is actually their first album, and this is a promo. It did have a white thing on a white strip on the bottom, which I did take off, and that one came off pretty clean. But whoever had this first decided to scribble on the stupid cover and over the name of the album, which is Fantasy Girls. But as you can see, it is a gold stamp. There's the back. And white label. So this one, you know, if I find a better cover, I might keep it, but I will definitely keep this because it is a promo. Now here's one of, actually, both of these are really cool. This is an old band called Coliseum. That was around just for about 4 or 5 years in the early 70s. Fairly progressive band, had some member change-outs. Always had John Heisman as the main guy. This is actually a radio station copy, which is the only real bad part is they used to scribble their call letters on the cover. And this one they did the front and the back and the gatefold. Luckily I can read all that stuff. Now the other kind of cool thing, and I'll show this on the label because it's stamped on there, this was from a college radio station. So they actually put their stamp on it as well. So early Dunhill white label. And here you can see property of Alfred Tech Broadcasting Service. So that one actually came from a college, but obviously very, very cool thing for me to find. And now the next one is actually the first Coliseum album I ever heard. My cousin had this when I was small, so I've known about Coliseum since I was probably 7, 8 years old. But he had this one. It was their last album called Coliseum Live. And I found this out in the wild. This is, there's your cover. And your gate. This is actually a white label as well. This is not stamped. I don't think they stamped any of their stuff back then. And both sides are white labels. So there's that one. The next one is actually one I got off eBay last year or the year before. Might have been, it was the year before. This one has a white strip. It's kind of damaged. The cover's not in great shape, but it's a promo, and the record's in great shape, so I just kept it. And figuring the cover was essentially just a red block with the Epic number on top. Obviously, they had no ideas for this one. 90215. Anyway, at least that one had a picture on it. This is Crowbar. This is a band from Canada that was pretty well known there and nowhere else. Now, the funny thing about this one is my wife and my daughter were watching a Hoarders episode, and they were talking about this guy, and they'd mentioned that he was in a band, used to be in a band called Crowbar when he was younger, and he ended up becoming poor and a hoarder and all that kind of stuff. Well, there he is right there. Kind of looks like one already, doesn't he? Anyway, so that was kind of interesting. This one is not a white label. I don't know why, but some are and some aren't. But it is definitely a promo. Let's see, it's got a regular orange label on it. So that is it for the ones that have strips or are marked on the label. The next batch are just stamped, so I'm not going to show the labels. I'm just going to go through them. Crawler, Snake Rattle and Roll. There's the front and the back. It's here. There's your stamp, and that one is a regular orange Epic. Now, Crawler was after Paul Kossoff died, the guy who was a guitar player for Free. Backstreet Crawler was the band he was in before he passed away. The rest of the guys kept going under the name Crawler, and they released 2 albums after that. City Boy, a band I really like from England. Very quirky, semi-progressive. Mike Slammer's the guitar player, really good heavy player, so they added some crunch to this stuff. This is their second last album and last one to be released here, called Heads Are Rolling. And there's the stamp on that one. Next one is Chilliwack, Canadian band that was around for about 10-15 years. Pretty famous there. Here they're more well known for a couple of songs off their last 2 albums. One off here called What You Gonna Do, and My Girl off the one before that, which were both on early MTV and got to be fairly well known through that. Next one is the Cheap Trick album. Now this one, I'm pretty sure I found at work. Now, when I worked at the record store. Now, one thing I used to do at the record store was returns. And I would have to go through all the ones that were returned back in the back room and make sure that there wasn't anything either discontinued or had an old number, because those are not returnable, or anything that wasn't a promo. So now this album is actually from '83, so I wasn't working there yet. But because I did do that, I did end up finding a few promos mixed in there, and I was able to keep them because we couldn't return them. So this next position, please, is gold stamped. Next one is kind of like the Crowbar album. It's an early Epic one, but it has an orange label. It's not a white label. Chase, their 3rd album before the plane crash. Pure Music has the white strip. Now this one's not attached. The glue made it fall off. So I kept it in the bag and then just kind of put it down there. This one is actually from a radio station. You see it was scrawled on there. Next is another one-off, Bobby Dazzler. Goofy ass name. 77. AOR kind of rock. 2 vocalists, so kind of like Two Dog Night. They're both brothers. There's the logo. There's the Hippie Brothers down there. And there's a gold stamp. That one's on MCA. Or RCA, sorry. Next one is a Capricorn. Now this one doesn't have a white label, but it does have a hype sticker on it, which I did leave. It's called Boats. Late 70s pop rock. There was a handful of pop rock acts on Capricorn, along with the southern rock and jazzy stuff. And this is one of them. Some pretty good stuff on here. And your stamp's right there. Next, Beaver Teeth. Now, Beaver Teeth would be known for one thing. The original singer from the Atlanta Rhythm Section on their first 2 albums ended up being the singer in this band. This is kind of a cute little cover with a play on words. Damn it. This is their second album. I have their first as well. This is on RCA, and it's got the RCA gold stamp from the late 70s on it. Next one is a one-off Southern rock band that I know nothing about. I had this album for a long time. They're on MCA, so it's got the regular MCA rainbow label. They're called Bandera. It's pretty good stuff. Nothing special, but it works. And it's called Nights. And your stamp is... Where's the stamp? How's the stamp? Oh, it's on the front. There you go. There's your stamp. Now the next 2 are the beginnings of the ones from my job, the record store. I'll just show these quick because it's just the stamps. Both classic Aerosmith albums. I got both of these, and both gold stamped. And I also got Permanent Vacation, but that one just has a slice in the corner, so it's like no real marking showing it's a promo, so I didn't bother to throw that in there. Bad English, this was toward the end of my tenure because this came out in '89. Gold stamp there. A couple Pat Benetars, Wide Awake in Dreamland and Tropico. And both of these are gold stamped. 2 Sabbath albums from not the ideal period, but like I said, it was there from 85 to 89. So from 85 and 87, we got Seventh Star and Eternal Idol, and those are both stamped on the front. There's that, and there's that. A couple Blue Oyster Cult albums from when I was working there. So probably the last two before they split up the first time. Imaginos and Club Ninja. And both of those gold stamped on there. To jazz, a couple Larry Carlton albums, Discovery and Late Night. And those are both gold stamped from MCA. Another Cheap Trick album. This one I actually got because I was working there when this came out. There's your gold stamp and this Lap of Luxury. I actually got 2 Chicago albums while I was working there, but the second one is not stamped. It was from another source, so I didn't bother to show it. This one, in fact, is gold stamped. Eric Clapton, August. That one is gold stamped, and there was a hype sticker, and I also got into the habit for a short time of taking those off. Wish I didn't, but, oh well. 80s Billy Cobham album, not great, but it's here. GRP, picture this, and gold stamp on that one. Lovely lady on the back. There's a group called Cock Robin, made a couple albums out in the mid 80s, actually produced by Steve Hillage, for those of you who know about Gong and his solo work. Pretty good stuff, kind of in the vein of Roxy Music in the 80s, but with also a female vocal involved. There's your gold stamp. One Alice Cooper, another case where I got both the MCA Alice Coopers while I was working there. The one wasn't stamped, so it wasn't from actual MCA. This one actually was. This is Raise Your Fist and Yell. And last in this batch, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, American Dream from '88. This one had a hype sticker as well that I took off because I'm a moron. This one is gold stamped. So that's it for that batch. I basically did one row. If I don't come up with any other ideas, I mean, the next one will probably be new stuff, hopefully. But I'll probably do the next row after that once I'm into doing another one. So, anyway, I kept you long enough. Everybody take care, be happy, and I'll see you later.